This episode of the Durian Pod is brought to you by Hexclad, official cookware partner of TDP.
On this episode of the Durian Pod, young love brought you to Los Angeles, essentially.
Young, stupid, oblivious love and complete ignorance of the the challenges in life will get you far, kids. You know, we're writers. We live, we wrap ourselves up in our failure, and then we sink in it, and then it's this amazing little like self-hate cocoon of self-recrimination of like, Jesus Christ, you're such a poser, failure. Like, it's a delicious part of our process. That's a fight for all of us to just get out there, because people aren't trying to cut us out of the narrative. But people tell stories from what feels like an authentic place. It goes beyond like writers and directors. We need so much support. It's not going to take one amazing auteur to change the industry.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
In continuing support of October.
Continuing support, yes.
Yes, continuing. It's almost over. We are drinking All Free by Suntory again.
Yes, we are. And if you guys haven't already seen it on the podcast, it is a 0-calorie, 0-sugar type of beer alternative, and we've been drinking it pretty much all month. But
I enjoy it.
I like it.
Yeah.
but I love it when I mix it with stuff.
Yes, it's a very good medium for cocktails.
Yes.
Mocktails, sorry. Cocktails. I'm already ruining Sober October spirit right now. What's up, everyone? My name is David.
And I'm Jasper.
Behind the camera, we have our wonderful Heidi.
Hi.
And you are watching another episode of the Durian Pod. This is the show where we showcase our friends who have fought against societal standards but still made it to the top. Today we have huge guest. She has been in the game for more than 20 years, having written and produced on countless projects on TV, including One Tree Hill, Life on Mars. She broke into the feature film space, co-writing Crazy Rich Asians, groundbreaking. And then a few years later, she made her Disney imprint with Raya and the Last Dragon. She then went on to make her directorial debut just this year and gave the world Joyride. She is the absolute best kind of energy human to be around. Adele Lim in the house, everybody.
Wow. Hi.
Welcome.
What a welcome, what an opening. And I gotta tell you, after that ramp up, I feel like it was all just a path to get me here, truly, to the Durian podcast.
If this makes your resume, I would be really happy.
Done. No, it's happening right now.
All right, put it on IMDb.
Yeah.
IMDb.
It's so good to see you, Adele. How have you been since?
I've been great. I'm sitting in your space right now. And the last time I was here, it was this massive, like curated, bespoke tasting menu you had done. I brought all my close friends here, yes. Blew everybody's mind away, as you do, Jasper.
Oh, you're too kind.
And yes, other than David's charm and cocktails, that's the reason I'm here tonight, because I was promised food.
So kind.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
Just try it. It better not. Listen, this Suntory is refreshing and delicious. It better not be all that's on the menu.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you worry. That's exactly, I think, the perfect segue into all of this is we actually have an Amuse Bouche for you to get started. Are we ready for that yet?
I'm hungry. I think Adele's hungry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hungry too.
Okay.
And Heidi's hungry.
Yeah. So we always start the show with an Amuse Bouche, and that's going to be your first tasting. I'm going to go ahead and prepare that, and I'll be right back. It'll be really quick.
Can't wait. My bouche is ready to be amused.
I'll just read it.
Whoa. Hot dog.
So this is Iberico pork fat, and the reason why it's doing that, it's smoking down, is it gets so hot. It's coming down at about 550 degrees. So you're really getting a little bit of that flavor. There we go.
Well, y'all can't see this, but it's about like the most exhilarating, dangerous / sexy thing you've ever seen, like pork fat over oysters. Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Go down.
Wow.
Now you can smell the aromatics.
Okay, I'm turned on.
Who isn't? Like, people listening to this are gonna be making babies tonight.
Can you feel? No.
The pork fat on the oysters.
Yeah. The Amuse Bouche this evening is fresh Pacific Kumiai oysters. We are serving it tonight in a hybrid of our Spanish tapas, which is something we did almost a year ago. So we actually have an olive tapenade that we make from scratch, and there's star anise and 5 spice. Very simple. It's blended in. We finish it with a passion and lemon juice mixture. And then what you just saw with all that smoke and flame is Iberico ham from Campo Grande. Ooh. We torch it to get the fat, and it's also been crisped on top so you have a little texture. And then we finish it with a little bit of pickled Persian cucumber. So there's a lot going on in this bite. It's going to be a little Mediterranean, a little Asian, a little smoky, but the creaminess is going to bring it all together from that wonderful Kumiai. So please help yourselves, guys. Heidi, please come over from your stand.
Wow.
But Adele, please do the honors of having the first one.
Beautiful
right,
presentation, Chef.
I'm
Thank you.
digging in, and also I gotta commend you on that whole descriptive to this. I can't wait.
It just sets you up for disappointment. That's what It's supposed to be very layered when it comes to the flavor. You're gonna hit that passion fruit, lemon juice, yuzu type of thing first. Of course.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm hitting all those things, and then after you get through it, that like little bite of, is that the ham?
Yeah, the bite of the ham finishes it all, but I think the creaminess of the oyster brings it together.
Love a kumiai. That was so good. How does it feel? Like you had like 17 different steps and ingredients in that thing. It felt, and it took me all of like 2 seconds to wolf it down.
I know this sounds a little bit cheesy, but a lot of what David has shared with me in terms of his research about you and what I've known about you is this characteristic of you kind of being that all-around encompassing person that is able to uplift, but yet kind of join people together. And I wanted to show this like a dish that kind of I felt showed a little bit of you and your uniqueness. And I hope it somewhat shows.
Jasper, that is about the sweetest, nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. Like, I've not had my personality encapsulated in an oyster. This is a first. I don't know if anyone has. I would like to then have my name trademarked on this oyster.
You guys heard it right here. It's
All right.
This is the Adele.
It's the Adele. It's a lot going on.
Yeah.
As with any amazing script, the main character needs to have an origin story, right? So let's hear your origin story. Where did you grow up? What was your upbringing like, etc.?
Yeah, well, gosh, I grew up in Malaysia. I grew up in Malaysia in this town called Petaling Jaya, which nobody's ever heard of, but it's the main suburb of Kuala Lumpur. And this is going to sound weird, but honestly, it feels like the other side of the coin to Los Angeles because it's the same thing, like big, huge urban sprawl, a ton of different cultures and races all kind of growing up together. You're kind of like just in each other's messes, and the food is phenomenal because of that. I think we just didn't get any recognition until Anthony Bourdain like showed up, and then they were like, "You have the best street food." We're just like, "You think?" But I think the issue with growing up there is that you eat so well all the time, and you grow up thinking like the rest of the world is like that. So grew up in Malaysia and, never thought I would be living in America or doing what I'm doing right now. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I think I'm very lucky that way, just kind of figuring it out from the time I was 4 years old. But when you're growing up in Asia with, Asian parents, et cetera, and this is a story you hear from all creatives, even people in like, what you do, Jasper, and that your vocation in life isn't about like what lights your creative, passionate, artistic fires. It's about how are you going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I was just lucky. My parents were in advertising, and they thought if I wanted to write, I could be a copywriter, and that's why they were okay with me coming to school in the States.
And that's what triggered you to move to LA, or?
Yeah, so I went to school in Boston. Yeah, majored in like some communication, one of those like communications degrees you cobble together, which is kind of nonsense.
Yes.
But here's the thing though, when you grow up in Asia and you come to an American school, like I am not a smart person. I'm not like a book smart person, but when you're raised in the rigorous like trenches of Asia, like coming over here, everything's like a piece of cake. Like that's like a low key flex, but it's just, it's hardcore. So school wasn't hard, but the wonderful thing about school is it just put me in touch with all these, young Americans who were there to pursue their passion. Like they wanted to work in TV and in film, and they just took it as their birthright, that their stories were important and needed telling, which is a complete contrast to how I grew up. So I think the short story is I met a cute boy who lived upstairs. And after we graduated, and we went out, after we graduated, I was going to go back to Malaysia, and he was going to move out to LA and write for the X-Files. And that sounded so much fun. So that's what I ended up doing.
Wow.
Holy cow. So you're saying that young love brought you to Los Angeles, essentially.
Young, stupid, oblivious love and complete ignorance of the challenges in life will get you far, kids. Yeah.
So you moved to LA, and did you accidentally kind of, find your craft, or what was that moment where you fell in love with it?
always knew I wanted to be a writer, like I said, but I didn't know you could write for TV. And I grew up watching so much TV. You know, I just didn't have a lot of like freedom to go out to the movies, but TV you could just watch from home, and so much American TV.
Oh, wow.
And again, I went to school. I went to public Malaysian school where the medium of instruction was in Malay. And the only reason I think I could adapt and the cultural shock wasn't horrible when I was 19 and 20 is because I watched a ton of 90210 and like all the, you know, and Friends. And
You know that show?
90210? Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
We're
Okay,
not
I
too
love
far
it.
separated.
90210, come-
I love it. They're with it. I mean,
Okay,
there's like a newer version of it.
There
but
is,
yeah. You know, I didn't sound like this. I had a much heavier Malaysian accent, but I also speak fast. So I realized if you speak fast with an Asian accent, people look at you a certain way. And so, you know, there was a lot of I had to like kind of shift it to this like Southern California accent when I came out here, because when I moved out here, you're dealing with a lot of things of like, I don't want my writer's room to know that I'm a recent immigrant who didn't share any of their cultural, like, you know, touchstones of like prom and what middle school was like, what camp was like. So at that time, the whole game was just to like not lie about my past, but just or my background, but make sure that I was presenting in a certain very professional way. Because, you know, and I'm sure you guys might have experienced it. I don't know, but there's a bias to the kind of accents people have. If you have a British accent or an Australian accent, that's charming, that's intellectual.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, you roll
I
in.
love it.
Yeah. But you roll in with like a heavy Asian accent, and suddenly like your otherness becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's annoying. I don't know how that came about, but you know, Asian accents are sexy, right? Hello?
Jasper's like blinking at you, like I mean.
Okay. I'm
Like a
trying
nice,
to
like,
fight.
Korean
I'm trying to
accent.
fight for
Listen.
us.
You're putting me on the spot here. I find it endearing, and I think it's more so because of like growing up around Asians. Like, you know, my family's Cantonese, our neighbors were Taiwanese. The people next to us, I believe, were Toishan as well. So like we got to really hear that, and for me, it's more endearing. I don't find it sexy.
Yes. There was some sarcasm behind
But,
that comment.
I mean, you know,
I retract now.
To each their own, you know.
Yeah.
No, I want to change all of it. I want to
no.
make that accent sexy.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be really nice because then you don't have that feeling that you were talking about, where is that
Yeah.
foreignness, right? Where you feel like you
Yeah.
have to adapt.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you're not going to make it. And I think
Exactly.
that's a big fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all like kind of done play acting, you know, to fit in a way. I think we've realized we try that experiment, kids, and it's, you know, it doesn't work. So the only way I think for a lot of our community is, you know, making our own party and not trying to be part of somebody else's party.
Yeah. Really like that.
So you do many, many years of, you know, TV. Can you speak on a story or a time when you can like profoundly remember where you failed so hard you wanted to quit? Like, you know.
That's like every other Wednesday. Like you're talking about like TV and film. Like it doesn't matter where you are in the food chain, there is always some heartbreaking failure. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for anyone, not just people in our community, you know, we tend to see the bright shining successes, and people don't speak as much of their failures. When I first joined my first writer's room, I didn't know this, but when you're a staff writer, especially when you're a young staff writer, your first script is going to be garbage. Like it is going to be garbage unless you're some sort of like wunderkind. And writing is like, especially screenwriting, there was this perception that, oh, you just have to show up like a fully formed writer. And nothing could be further from the truth. That there's a sharp learning curve, and that you only kind of, you know, get better through mentorship and spending 10,000 hours writing.
It sounds like that industry, there's like no time to reflect on the failure. It's like almost like retrospectively, like, oh, damn, like 2 weeks ago, that was not how I wanted it to go. But then it's so like fast paced that you kind of just have to like pick up and keep moving.
It is fast paced, but you know, we're writers. We wrap ourselves up in our failure, and then we sink in it. And then, you know, it's this amazing little like self-hate cocoon of self-recrimination of like, Jesus Christ, you're such a poser, failure, like you who can't string two sentences together. It's a delicious part of our process.
Yeah.
I'm like doing a bang up job of like attracting future writers into our industry.
Join us. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what what kind of mindset do you have to in order to endure like those, rejection after rejection or failure after failure?
I think for our industry, a thick skin, and really coming from a place of joy and not being afraid to fail. For a long time, like there were not a lot of Asian American writers. Like there would be 13 white guys in a room and me. And I think after many years and then finding organizations like CAPE and, what we realized was that there are a lot of Asians who came in from amazing schools who were great writers, but they just didn't last. And a big reason for that is culturally, and I'm hoping that's changing now, Asian Americans tend to underrepresent and overperform. They, don't like talking about themselves or boasting about them. It's seen as boasting, talking up a big game. They prefer to, let the work speak for itself. But that is not the way it works in entertainment. You have to, project confidence. You have to look and seem like the kind of person that the rest of the writers and producers want to be in business with. Are you a great storyteller? Yeah. Even simple things like how to ace like a general meeting. You think you sit down at a general meeting with an executive, like the head of ABC or whoever, or the head of TV, and they're asking you about your background. Your job is not to say, oh, well, I got a scholarship to Northwestern and that nobody gives a shit. Yeah. Like they're looking at you saying like, how is this guy different from the other 300 people I've met? Yeah, does he have a story? Is he interesting? Is he going to be able to hang with the other writers? And so, these are lessons that nobody tells you. Nobody tells you until you're in it, you hang in there long enough, and then you realize like, oh gosh, like I'm doing this all wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. As an Asian person, I feel like you kind of have to like almost unlearn what you kind of grew up with, and to be able to shine like in the way that you need to in that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a generalization, but but the exciting thing is like the new generation of of filmmakers, I think have done a really great job of shedding that skin. Yeah. And you can also tell in all these mentorship programs that we have, every time we meet the new class of aspiring writers and filmmakers, first, all the stories were the same, like, oh, my parents wanted me a lawyer, engineer, doctor, And that's great. It's fine. And it's probably true. But you also have to realize that every other Asian American has that story. So when you roll into a meeting or that's what you start with, that does not make you different from anyone else. Where we are generationally, the exciting thing is this, like we want to be able to get past like the race cultural trauma that we've all kind of experienced and get to that point of like, okay, separate from all of that, what's my story as a creator? What do I have to bring to this world that's amazing and special and fantastic, and not just dwell in that space of like racial injustice? And I say this not to dismiss racial injustice. That's horrible, and there are things that need to be done, and we're still in a broken system. I'm just talking about you as an individual creator and that special spark. Like you want to get to that spark. You want to peel back all those onion layers of just like the world is gross and get there.
It's like peeling back the layers of the durian, right? You have to really get to the mushy part.
The mushy part, The
goodness.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up because I'm thinking about, as you're saying all of this stuff, I think about the journey into culinary, and very much so it's exactly what you talk about, but behind closed doors. There's no cameras filming all of that. But every Asian American that I've met so far in the last 3 years who has joined some sort of restaurant, gone to culinary school, was always told head down, but they don't realize that they actually need to put their head up high. And those are the ones that are getting promoted to sous chef and then CDC and then executive chef. Everyone else is just stodging and staying a prep cook for 4 or 5 years before they get recognized. And it's so interesting to hear that that's also happening, I guess, on the entertainment side.
Yeah, I think, I've heard it. I heard it's the same experience in all these different fields, whether it's finance or tech, that there's this, it's like this pyramid where there's a ton of amazing overqualified Asians on the entry level and huge and, middle management. But then when you get to that top 10%, the top 1%, it's not the people who keep their heads down and shut up and do hard work, hoping that the system is going to reward them. The system is not going to reward you at the end. At the end of it, it's people who are we're in America. It's like people who are bold, who are brash, who get along, with the brass, or get into fights with them and then go off and like start their own thing. Like those are the people who make a difference and are splashy.
So this is the point where we go into our favorite dish. It is one of our main courses that we're serving at Roslyn right now. I'm going to go ahead and prepare it, but be prepared for some good eats coming up.
Ooh, I'm getting ready.
Awesome. I'll be right back.
All right.
This is our favorite dish. It's a main course that we're serving here at Roslyn right now. And this is actually the first time we've ever done it. So technically we haven't served it yet, but we have been doing these prawns. So we get these Thai water prawns that are flown in overnight from Bangkok. These are the same giant ones that go for about 8 to 10 inches. And they're caught out of the river. And then they're usually skewered on the street and then roasted. So in true fashion of honoring the ingredient, we actually wok fry it. There's no butter, just a little bit of oil and garlic, and then we torch flame it. So that's why you might have heard that fire going on, my little flamethrower. And to bring it all together, this is actually paired with the mocktail. So using that same peach base with a little bit of cinnamon and a reduction on there, we mixed it into a Nam Jim sauce. So you have fish sauce that's been caramelized, fresh cilantro, smoked ocean trout roe adorns it to kind of add another layer of smokiness. So you have sweet, salty, savory. And then the reason why everyone loves these prawns is because of the head guts. And I don't know if you're down, right?
I was going to warn you before we jumped into this. Like, nobody ever really understands how third world I am until they see me tear into prawns.
Yes. So they're known for the golden guts. And so what we do right now at Roslyn, we have risotto and we have people actually grab the head and squeeze the head juice onto the risotto.
Yeah.
But for this, I'd recommend just eating the meat and just, we'll do it all together.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. This is going to get messy.
I'm gonna check it off.
Yeah, take your jacket off. Don't want to ruin that nice jacket.
Wow.
I'm gonna put a bib on to protect.
This is how you know it's real. When people have to start adjusting their outfits to take this down.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot going on here.
Okay, I'm just gonna copy you.
Finish it, hey guys.
Yep.
I like to just rip it out. You just like suck on it. Okay.
You just bite into it.
It's all the juice, the sweetness of the peaches is already inside.
Oh my God, it's so good. That is an amazing flavor. I feel like I need a cigarette after that. That was delicious. It tastes so good, but again, to really enjoy it, you gotta get a little messy.
Yes.
Yeah, the squeezing part was a little explicit.
Hey, food is
splashing juices.
Food is explicit. It's sensual.
It's like sounds like somebody got a lot of action on that trip.
Yours was a little dry though, David.
It was a little dry. I think I was doing something wrong.
I knew it was gonna be that kind of podcast.
All right, well, let's segue.
Let's segue.
Adele, we can't talk to you without talking about Crazy Rich Asian. It was such a groundbreaking, movie in the entertainment space. It was first majority Asian cast since the Joy Luck Club. Joy Luck Club was 1993. I revisited the movie like a few weeks ago, and I just reminded me how good it was. I loved all the Asian nuances, like the Tupperware. Some parts were a little bit frightening, like Michelle Yeoh. She did such a good job, and she almost reminded me of my own parents. That like every time she jumped on screen, I kind of tensed up a little bit. The Asian parent acceptance that like kind of hit me really hard, because it's like I resonated with that so hard, So a really great movie. It was like the Asian Avengers. Just so many good actors and actresses. I love that. It made a lot of money, and you were offered a opportunity to write the sequel, which is an amazing opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But you learn about the compensation that you would get, and the compensation was, I think, about 1/8 of your co-writer, right?
Yeah, it was garbage, but yes.
And just to put it in context, her co-writer is a white male, and 1/8 is doesn't seem fair at all. It kind of shows you how or where the industry is, but you walk away from it. And can you tell us what your mindset was then compared to now in that scenario, and maybe how someone should navigate maybe that scenario in a similar situation when the industry kind of shows its ugly face?
Well, I don't think I can pretend to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. It's about your comfort level.
Yeah.
But a few things about me is I have an impulse control problem, probably kind of a little bit of a temper. I inherited from my dad. But I was also really fortunate. I came up as a television writer. I had a whole career as a TV writer, producer, showrunner before that. And there are lots of feature writers where that exact same situation, writers who are much better than I am, more qualified, and they've had to go through instances like that. But and a part of my attitude was also that, I knew what I was worth. I knew what my quote was in television and in entertainment. If you come over and write features, the business affairs attitude towards my quote was like, well, you wrote Crazy Rich Asians, which is your first movie, and so we're gonna pay you like we pay any like recent graduate out of USC. To which my reaction was, and forgive this, but you did say I could swear. I was like, fuck that shit. The only reason they got the script that they did and the movie that they did is because I spent 17 years honing my craft as a screenwriter. Like, I know how to I know how to turn a scene around. I know how to create compelling arcs for characters, for a major story. And also I was very aware of the fact that still at the time, there were not a lot of like Asian-centric narratives out there. And coming up in the industry, there's always this thought that, the competent filmmaker is the white guy. And if you bring on the minority, especially like a minority woman, she's just there for optics or to make things look good. Mm-hmm. And I did not, not that anybody would be talking about how much we paid, but it would make a difference to me. It would make a difference to the community. And I know what I put into that movie. I know, I know how I imprinted on it. I know how I made it mine. And the idea that there would be any perception that I was somehow some sort of garnishing on this story was unacceptable to me. It felt like I couldn't stomach it. Yeah. And especially after the success of Crazy Rich Asians, and this, I think, the most special part of it for me wasn't the movie or that I got to write it, was that there were all these amazing communities of Asian Americans throughout America, around the world, but, over here who came together to support the movie sight unseen. And people were sharing their stories about how they felt seen, how they felt represented, how, it just emboldened them in their own professional lives. And I felt after all of that and, being on the publicity circuit and, just being part of that wonderful movement, that it would have been disingenuous to take anything less. Mm-hmm. So I walked away. That was a very long answer to your question.
No, that was, yeah.
That's I think we'd prefer it that way. It's also kind of, I'm hearing this for the first time because obviously you'll see whatever's in the press or whatever we can find, but to hear that from you, it almost breaks my heart a little bit.
Aw.
Because I remember when the movie came out and it was like, wow, this is the definition of we're finally being seen. There's stories that you don't talk about in public. And a lot of my non-Asian friends would come to me going like, so did that really happen? Your parents really play Mahjong and they judge people like that? I was like, 100%. And the fact that I can't play means I'm bringing dishonor to my family, but that's a whole nother story. So it breaks my heart a little bit because I'm just sitting here going like, I can only imagine how much of you was put into that script as well and your story. And for that to kind of just get eclipsed just because of whatever was going on in the publicity side,
yeah, because of nonsense. But I think it's good for all of us to expect that there's always, there's just because something is a success doesn't mean we fix the world forever. Right. And I love that you brought up like the Mahjong playing and all of that the book is called Crazy Rich Asians. And I remember thinking it's so easy for something like this to become a movie that, just exoticizes us even more, that I wanted to make sure like this is, again, I grew up in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, Singaporeans, like these are like the characters in there. My family, I like to say like they're not rich, but they're crazy as shit. Like the aunties, the Malay, the food, the dynamics, how things are talked about over Mahjong, how like the gossipy, like a cluster of ants in Bible study, like that's entirely my family. And that was the first time in my career that I ever got to write for a culture that was mine, that for people who looked like me. And it's like breathing. It's like breathing, and you're like, thinking, oh my God, do like just like white writers get to feel this all the time? And then finally we get to play in it. And the most rewarding And magical part of that process was when you put, when John Chu and I were coming up with scenes and, where the stories were going to go, like it's not market tested. We're not like, do people really want to see a scene about people folding dumplings, a family, making dumplings together? We just put it out there because that was an upbringing we felt was real to us. And if it was real to us, we knew it was going to feel real to other people.
Yeah.
And then it's out there. And what we realized, it wasn't, just the Asian American communities, but Mexican American communities, like, all these different underrepresented groups in America who had their own culinary traditions. They felt very seen by the movie as well. So, just being able to put your heart and soul into something and then be told by, like some faceless business affairs thing that, oh, well, according to our algorithm, like you should not be making as much. Like, it's hell with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Grace, not on all of that. I love John Chu. I love the actors. I love the franchise. I want there to be a sequel. I wish nothing but the best for them. Like, I want Crazy Rich Asians to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be nice to see where they go. And,
Yeah.
and just on the dumpling note, though, I think it's the moment you said that, it actually reminded me of a memory. I think it was about 2 months after the movie came out, sitting with a bunch of friends and someone, this was back in the tech days when I was doing all that stuff. A guy from the country of Georgia said that he felt seen for the first time because they make dumplings in Georgia too. And I didn't know that until he told me.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, like this is very cross-cultural. Like this is not just about Crazy Rich Asians. This is pretty much, like you said, anyone who hasn't been seen.
Yeah, we love a Georgian dumplings. The one they have like a little sour cream thing. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's sour cream and what makes it a Georgian dumpling?
The skin is a lot thicker.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. But the process of making it is almost identical. Stuffed meat, and then they just have nice sour cream stuff inside. We'll have to go sometime. If the place is still open and survive COVID, would love to take you.
Georgia trip.
Belize, like that place.
Oh yeah. She knows.
Listen, I eat a lot. Girl eats. But yeah, and the interesting thing about the dumpling scene too, you're working with these very, very supportive producers, but you realize when you're pitching scenes like that, like, oh, this is entirely foreign to them. I remember when John and I pitched it, one of the producers were like, that sounds like a made up thing that, for the movie, we just want to make sure it's real, that it's not like some, weird, like, oh, this is what Asians do. We make dumplings. I'm like, like we make dumplings, like we gamble, we smoke, and we make dumplings. Like this, all things can be true.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have questioned that as a producer if you're like, let's make orange chicken and beef broccoli, but dumpling. Oh my god, he was offended. Okay, not offended, but confused.
They just wanted to make sure that it was culturally authentic, and I know where it's coming from because we all grew up watching their culture. Like we know what the classic Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving looks like, and in a way that, and it's not their fault. Like they don't know how we grew up. They didn't grow up watching Hong Kong cinema or like sitting in our tables for like Lunar New Year. So you gotta educate.
Yeah. Going back to the Mahjong scene, like I know you had a heavy influence on that scene. Like it was described as like essentially the final battle or fight scene as if it were like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fight scene, except it was Mahjong. So no, that was great. Yeah, I really liked that scene a lot.
Well, I love that you love it and that it resonated. And it all came from a place of, it all came from a very authentic place of my family being degenerate freaking gamblers. My father was a professional gambler.
So are you good? Are you good?
I'm not. My mother would say I'm trash. Like I can do it, but I'm not as I'm not professional like the church ladies. The church ladies, by the way, they call it fellowship hour. Because it's all about communing and like building fellowship. But money is changing hands, and they take that shit seriously. Like you owe $23, you owe $20. You better pay up at the church lady group. Yeah.
Do you know how to play?
I barely know how to play. I think I'm actually true trash when it comes to it because anytime I'm playing with my relatives, but my grandmother is so into it. She's in Hong Kong right now.
Oh God, she's Hong Kong Mahjong. Yeah,
Hong Kong Mahjong, and she will go every Wednesday and Thursday. She says to her like fellow clubs thing with all the grandmas, and they wait in line and they play bracket Mahjong.
Bracket
As
Mahjong.
in there'll be like a table of 4, right?
Oh, it's like a tournament.
It's a tournament.
I love
And
it.
they'll just break down, and the pile gets bigger and bigger, and the winner takes all.
Whoa.
Oh, I like that. It's like no hold'em Texas poker tournaments of just like you take the whole thing. I like that's intense. I like your grandma.
Yeah, WSOP for Mahjong. Let's talk about it, ESPN.
But seriously, it's not just like, oh, special traditional game. Like the best thing about it is it goes against every Asian stereotype you can think of. Like there's like smoking and superstition, and like you get cussed out if you don't play right. And it's one of those games where you can't just like you could be a genius. You're not going to learn it on Friday and play it like a pro on Monday, because there's the whole thing of like muscle memory of how like you're shuffling the cards, how you're stacking it, this unsaid etiquette of like, that nice clackety clack sound and who's taking cards first. I remember when my mother taught us, like when you learn how to play, you play with cash immediately. Like when we like gamble with Chinese New Year money. Yeah. 6 years old, whatever, like you have all that cash, you are gambling with real money. First, you're playing like blackjack. And then when you get old enough, you play, you can play Mahjong, but you play with cash. And when you lose, your mother will take your money from you and she will keep it. There's no giving your money back. And I remember asking my mother about this. And
That sounds like how I was raised.
The phrase is like, you have to pay to learn Mahjong, because if you don't have skin in the game, if you don't feel the laws, you're playing differently. It's the same with Texas Hold'em. If you can go all in with imaginary money, you're not really playing right. So real stakes.
I love that.
Yeah. Like you don't feel the risk. You don't feel the pressure.
Yep.
I think even so in a parenting role, I think it shows that your actions have true consequences.
Yep.
Which I don't think that's actually shown as much in like at least growing up in ABC culture, at least how I was. But I would have loved that.
Don't gamble, friends. It's a path to perdition. It's no good, but oh God, so fun.
Guys, remember, this is not a gambling advertisement. We don't condone it. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, whatever it is.
Yeah, just don't be a degenerate gambler, but it's so fun.
Yeah. But shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings. I'm kidding.
Shout out to our sponsors, DraftKings. If you sign up with our code David, you'll get $50 in gambling.
I'm Vietnamese, but I don't gamble. But
if you sign up with Adele's code, it's $150
There
in
you
gambling.
go. There you go. I know. I'm going to get an endorsement deal coming out of this.
So let's transition to the next big project that you had, which is Raya. So when Raya first came out, I think it came out roughly around the pandemic. She's Southeast Asian.
Yes.
So are you. So am I. And so when I finally, because there's Mulan, right? And I was like, okay, well, that's about as good as it's gonna get for me, because Asians kind of get grouped as Asians, right? But when Raya came out, I was like, what? Who did this? Who did this?
You saw the durian flying around the screen, babe? Yeah, that's right. Some mangosteen.
Oh, God, mangosteen.
It was amazing. And like the thing I loved about Raya is like she was a princess, but she's not princessy at all. She's like a badass. Yeah. So I love that differentiation between all like the princes that we grew up with, Yeah, so I guess just to describe the excitement on the opportunity with Disney to be able to like kind of mold and portray this character that so closely related to your culture.
Yeah, I think I got really, really lucky. Like I came in at Disney, it is a director-based studio. And the directors of Raya at the time, I think, at the time, it was this more Chinesey, like, East Asian with a dragon story. But our directors had just taken a trip to Southeast Asia and it blew their minds. Yeah. So the excitement around it, and again, you don't want to tell a story from a woke standpoint of just like, hey, it has to be an empowered girl who just doesn't get saved. Like but it came from a very real place of what was that Southeast Asian spirit. And again, you have a Southeast Asian mom. Yeah. Southeast Asian women are known for being like, just having a tremendous amount of agency in their culture, in their families, even if the cultures are seen as like, favoring guys, or all of us grew up with like very, very strong-minded mothers and grandmothers. Yeah. And so wanting to be able to reflect that in the storytelling was exciting. The other thing that was exciting is I'm a mom and I have 2 kids. I have an older daughter and she was little at the time. And for the idea that, my little girl was going to grow up in America with a Disney princess that looks like her, I was like, this is game changing. So basically, I did it for very selfish reasons. I did it so that my kids could look at a Disney action figure and be like, that's me.
Yeah. No, I like, again, I thank you so much for putting it out in existence, Raya, the character, because again, like now there's a princess that kind of looks like me. Really big question though.
Like
is she?
You do. Am I looking at Raya right now?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is she Vietnamese?
What? The cultures, we like to say, like
They're meshed, right?
There it was actually like a really interesting deliberate choice, because we didn't want to be like, okay, well, this is Vietnam and this is Malaysia and that's Laos, because you didn't want to paint one nation as like, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys.
Right.
The great thing about Disney, and this is the one thing they get right, they have like money and resources, is that they can afford to go really deep into the culture. And so when we would have our cultural experts, they would go to the countries and we'd have a long partnership with them. It's to get to the core of what unified all these different Southeast Asian countries. Yeah. So, but profile wise, I think at the beginning, it's easy to have an Asian female kick-ass character and have her look kind of like, let's say like light-skinned, Chinese, Japanese, like those features. The Southeast Asian features are a little bit different. We've all kind of grown up with some degree of colorism. You don't have to be Asian to experience that. I'm like a brown ass, like, Chinese Malaysian girl. And so we wanted a character, with those features, with that coloring. And you'd see that also reflected in the other characters and people in Raya, like different body sizes and things. Kind of like, seeing it, reveling in it, so you can see them as characters and not just like some sort of like cartoon stereotype.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did want to ask then, with this cultural exploration that you're talking about, diving deep on that, did you discover something about, let's just say, your heritage or your culture that you didn't even know about through this journey?
Oh, it's so much, because I'm ignorant. Like one of my favorite things was when you're in the story room at Disney, it's a lot like a big writer's room. So it's me with all our story artists, a lot of whom came from the culture. So when we're talking about languages and certain things of just like, oh, well, we have this in our culture too, like this fabric or this saying, even the name Raya, when we were trying to come up with a name for her. And Raya was one of those things that, spoke to me. In Malay, Raya means like a celebration, like Hari Raya means like a day of celebration. And Raya is just like a wonderful, positive thing. And my friend, from Thailand said, well, Raya again means like this like glorified leader. And going back to all those like Sanskrit, Hindu, like those ancient roots and finding all those things that really connect us, you realize like, because growing up, you're like, well, I'm Malaysian. There's nothing like being a Filipino, et cetera. And you realize that, you just have so much shared culture and heritage. It's an exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you couldn't really tell. It was just like a full-on representation of the region, and anyone could feel like that was them.
Our fighting styles were real though. Like my co-writer Kumiai, and it's amazing because he's also a stunt coordinator. So all her fighting styles are like specifically
so cool.
Southeast Asian, like silat and those things with like the sticks. It's all very specific to the region versus East Asian martial arts.
That's amazing.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Rewatch it.
Yeah. We'll do a team watch again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And visit Georgia for dumplings.
And visit Georgia for dumplings.
Yeah, and just attack him with short sticks just cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But transition really fast to Joyride. Congratulations on, this is your like rookie card of a movie, directorial debut. Just to get into it, what was your most favorite thing about that transition? Now you're directing. What's your most favorite thing about directing, and also the most stressful thing?
The best thing about directing was realizing I could do it at all. That reconfirmed what many writers suspect, which is writing really is the hardest part of the process. No. Because as writers, ultimately, even if you do it in a team, even if it's collaborative, at the end of the day, if you're the writer, you do it alone. You are in a fetal position, sweating that out alone. As a director, you have the benefit of all these amazing teams being better at your job than you are. But you have to have a vision for your movie, and you have to be okay with 300 people asking you 300 questions all day long.
Wow. And
my background, I think, as a writer really served me as a director, because it's really all we're doing is we're telling stories. And to anyone who's listening, if you are a woman of color with any dreams of directing, or anybody of color, anybody who's like outside of the imprint of what we think, an auteur director is, I would highly encourage you to get into it. Directing is hard. You don't see a lot of Asian directors. You don't see actually, we have wonderful Asian directors, but I just wish there were more, because it's one of those paths where there isn't like a clear ladder to it. You can't be an assistant director and get promoted to director. You just have to show up fully fleshed as a director or not. And women especially have this idea that, I have to check all these boxes. I have to be super perfect to put myself up for it. You don't, but you have to have a clear sense of what your story is.
Yeah. No, just to kind of piggyback off that is, we're starting to see an uptick on Asian actresses, which is great. But the age or the minority directors and writers, those are the people that are pushing the narrative. And so if we don't have enough of those, we can have as many actors and actresses we want, but the story won't be told. Right. And so I think that's really important that you brought that up, because the stories that need to be told where let's say a white male director wouldn't be able to kind of relate to,
Yeah, and it's difficult because I don't want to say like a white male director can't, doesn't get it. Like you don't need to be Asian or you don't need to be Chinese to write a Chinese script, or Malaysian to write a Malaysian script, but you do need to be somebody who understands that culture and loves it and be able to, really like feel and bleed for that character and just live that world, have it like just penetrate your skin. Yeah. So, I think it's a lot easier for underrepresented groups to write for mainstream culture because we had to grow up with that culture. We wrote, the music, the TV shows, the movies, whereas they haven't had the benefit of growing up with God of Gamblers and all the Jackie Chan and Jet Li movies. Yeah. And so it's just really being able to come up with stories for these wonderful new actors to inhabit. If you don't have the real authentic stories, then our actors are going to be kind of stranded on a limb, because then they're just saying somebody else's story.
Right. Yep.
That's a fight for all of us. That's a fight for all of us to just get out there, because people aren't trying to cut us out of the narrative, but people tell stories from what feels like an authentic place. And so if you don't have, it goes beyond like writers and directors. We need writers, directors, executives, producers, like heads of department. Even on my movie Joyride, like being able to find set designers and costume designers who came from the culture or understood and loved the culture. You need all of that firing on all cylinders, because we have a little bit more of a barrier to overcome for people to understand and see us, see our culture, and accept it and find it entertaining and find it like vibrating at a certain quality level. We need so much support. It's a village. It's not going to take one amazing auteur to change the industry.
Right. Oh, speaking of directors, I know that John Chu. You've worked closely with him. John Chu is the director of Crazy Rich Asians, and I heard he assisted you with the approach to Joyride. Can you speak on how important or impactful he was to that process, as well as just kind of having someone that understands?
I love John. Like if I had not already named my two children, I would have named my daughter John Chu the second. And John's amazing. So I would not have the career I have today. I would not be directing this thing if it wasn't for him. So I got the opportunity to direct Joyride, and that was right as the pandemic hit. So I had to put myself through at-home director school by talking to all my friends, and John is the only director who was doing it at a certain level, and he was busy as hell with a project that was secret at the time, but we all know he's directing Wicked. So he's got like a pile of kids, he's got this project, but he would still take time and Zoom with me for hours, like talking me through how he pitched Crazy Rich Asians, what to think about, when you're on set. And he gave me one of my most valuable lessons, which was the difference between a director and a writer and everybody else is a director on the day has to be completely in the moment. As writers, as people who worry about producing, we tend to exist in many different time zones. Like we're in the past, we're in the present, we're in the future, we're troubleshooting, we're worrying about other things. And directing, you have to be purely in the moment with your actors in that scene, determining if you're getting everything you need, because you are not going to be here again. As a writer, you can always revisit a page, you can always change a scene. As a director, it's just like, once we wrap this, we are going. Like, you may not be back here for reshoots. Right. And I found it a remarkable metaphor and allegory for life of, being that person in the moment, being okay with being viewed as the person who calls the shots.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I almost say it reminds me of something that one of my mentors told me about culinary, where basically you only have one opportunity to serve a dish. And you have to also start living like that as well outside of the kitchen. Because a lot of chefs will get so honed in on precision and perfection to the point that they, we've lost greats. They've killed themselves. They've completely left the industry because of that.
Yep.
But instead, if you focus on the excellence of that moment at that time, then you can give the best that you can. And so I think that's so beautiful that you shared that.
I love that you brought up the parallels to the culinary world and to so many creative endeavors were it's all like surfing. It's like surfing and, putting yourself out there and not being afraid to be the person. Like you're creating this kitchen, you're kind of putting yourself out there of just like, I didn't have the training for this, but I'm going to go with it. And it's also an exercise in trusting your gut that when you try to come up with something creative, like if you, I'm just speaking for you, like as a chef, like I know a vocation I know nothing about. But if you start creating a dish from a place of fear of just like, oh, well, most people like this or want to have that, or like I had a bad review of something and so I've got to make it this other way.
Right.
And it's the same for filmmaking and writing. If you start creating from a place of fear, it's paralyzing. And so you have to, you just have to kind of surf on this wave of like, your own chutzpah.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting. I know I've been trying to hear a little bit from Heidi, but like one of the things that I thought was incredible about her story and Ashley, her co-founder, is the fact that they took something that was so traditional and homey, which is the tongyuan with the black sesame, and saying, we're going to do something with this. We don't care what the rest of the world thinks. We're just going to show our version of it. And now they have that black sesame crunchy butter. And you could put it on anything, but yet every time you taste it, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
I don't know if like in Southeast Asian culture, they do black sesame, like tongyuan. Yeah.
We tend to do like the plain glutinous ball sometimes, but tongyuan and also like the peanut filling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. Like with Heidi, of just going with a thing, and I think it's even harder for Asian food because there's just like thousands of years of tradition for so many things. Where they're like, why would you want to come up with black sesame paste, or with like fly by jing? Why would you want to come up with a new like Chinese spicy sauce? Like, what do you have to offer? And it's like we all have something to offer if we feel strongly enough about it.
I think that's a key takeaway of this episode for sure. Just take the leap of faith and feel strongly and keep going, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap it up, is there a specific piece of advice that you hold close to you that you want to share with maybe viewers that are in the entertainment space?
In the entertainment space? Yeah. I think we actually did cover it just in this last thing, which is the coming from a place of joy. And it's easy to say, of course, you need everything. You need the 10,000 hours. You need to hone your craft. You need to know, like, in a really honest way, is this your passion, or are you doing it because it feels like the thing to do? Like, do you love doing it? But once you've answered all those questions and you've put in all that work, it's that, like, come from a place of just sheer exuberant joy. It's especially prescient for Asian American writers and filmmakers. And I say this only because, I've been involved with CAPE and Gold House and a lot of mentorship programs. A lot of times, like, our narratives here tend to be stuck at that level of, fighting against an injustice that happened to us, or fighting against this world that doesn't see us. But that shouldn't be the extent of your message. And again, not to say that it's not an important story. It needs to be told. But there's also a special magic spark in you that exists beyond that is transcendent. And I bring everything back to food. It's like with food, it's not like you want to do like the best version of like this Chinese dish. It's like something that is transcendent, that is you, that honors your culture, honors like the discipline and, the profiles that went into this, but vibrates at this transcendent level that anybody can see it and appreciate it for what it is. And I want that for our writers, our young writers and directors and actors, to kind of get past that horrible barrier of like, the garbage that the world is serving you, the injustice, not to say it's not real. It's fucking real. Like, but it's a challenge to kind of get past the bullshit barrier and get to a place where it's just you as a shiny creator.
I love that.
That's very powerful. I mean, it just, I feel the tears coming out on all of us, just because we get so caught up in the past sometimes and how we are, but we forget about our today. We forget about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And I think everything that you've just said just resonates so hard, because it's like the question I always ask my team here is, why not? Why don't you do this? And there's this expectation from either how we were raised, who we surround ourselves with, and to be able to say, why not do this? And going back to food, just because it's always been done a specific way, why not change it?
Yeah.
Just the same in music and entertainment. So that's incredible. So thank you.
Oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing like the hard work and being out there and like, creating new dishes. Like we're like writers. I feel like we just like come up with like ridiculous stories that we crack ourselves up.
Well, I think it's a perfect time too for our last thing.
There's a last thing.
Yes. We call it the final bite. And it is something that is ultra decadent. I think it's a great way to round out the podcast. Yeah, I'll bring over the final bite to you shortly. And thank you for that.
Holy.
Just because you're here on the show.
Stop.
Yes.
And,
This is my love language right here.
caviar?
Wow.
I'll have the rest of the tin.
Stop
if
it.
you like.
Oh my-
Don't tempt me. I'm gonna. Oh man.
So
Dude.
for people that can't see,
Dude.
there's a little bit of scallop there and caviar.
Yeah. This is caviar with a side of scallop and sauce.
What? Is this like a Kaluga? It's a Savruga. What is it?
This is an Osetra hybrid.
Nice. Okay.
So the caviar is from our friends over at Astria Caviar. They work over with us at Roslyn, and they are known as the Michelin Star Caviar. You can tell immediately by the color and the size of the pearls. Not only are the sturgeon harvested a lot later, but there also is a significantly less amount of salt in them. And so if you look really closely, there's a little hint of olive green in there. And that's the difference between a quality caviar versus a, for lack of a better term, crappy caviar. Because crappy caviar is dark black because of the amount of salt that they're putting in. So it's anywhere from 8 to 10% versus this is less than 3%. So you can really taste the fish oil, the omega-3s, all the flavor. This is their Osetra hybrid. It's phenomenal. We're serving it on top of an imported Hokkaido scallop that's just been pan-seared with fresh olive oil from Graza, their sizzle, and then we finish it with salt. I wanted something very simple. The acidity comes from the side, and that's our yuzu garlic crema that we make. And so it's bright. It's got a little accent of that Asian flavoring that you get with roasted garlic and the fresh yuzu, and it's pasted on there. So please enjoy your final bite.
Wow.
Jasper, talk dirty to me.
This. I wish this was like a TV show. People need this. After that whole intro, I'm gonna just try a little bit of the caviar on its own.
Yes, please. Please try it just by itself. It's super creamy.
Oh wow.
And this dish is supposed to be extra decadent. I'd recommend eating the scallop and the caviar and then finishing with just a forkful of the sauce to bring it all together.
Okay.
And a shout out to Astria Caviar. Thank you for sending
Thank you,
this over,
Astria.
Charlie. Thank you.
Give us a moment if we black out.
I'm like giggling, ready to eat kind of scallop. It's my favorite thing to eat. If you guys haven't already noticed, I think it's been on the show. Like the scallops have been on the show like 3 times, but never like this.
This is next level. This is stupid ridiculous. Oh. So good. Just at that crema at the end.
So Adele, I wanted to squeeze in one last question while we're eating. Oh, I got some caviar on the mic. Any new projects in the horizon? Things you're excited about, things you can tell us about, maybe things you can't tell us about, but you tell us anyway.
We'll feed you another spoonful of
Yeah.
caviar, if that helps.
We'll barter.
I'll tell you anything with spoonful of this caviar. But the writer's strike just ended a couple of weeks ago. And so the whole town went from like doing nothing to suddenly all the writers have like all kinds of projects. I just pitched on a feature today that I'm going to be writing, directing, and producing. I'm very excited about it. I
Wow.
can't talk about it yet because it hasn't been like officially announced, but
Hey, how much is it gonna
I'm
take?
psyched.
How much we got caviar here.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Is it in the feature film space? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you see kind of foresee yourself just sticking to that? Like TV is kind of like a just past memory.
No, I'm a TV girl at the end of the day. And I think with television, viewers can develop a kind of relationship with
yeah.
the world and the characters in a way that you can't with feature films. And so I'm dying to go back to television and either write a pilot or direct one or at least create that world and get back into that. That's my happy place.
Adele, I hope you had fun as much as we did. This is just a treat, just kind of getting to know your story. Congrats on Joyride again. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's hilarious. We saw it when it first came out.
Yes, we
in
did.
Theaters, and just the energy in that movie is intense. It's insane. But
thank you so much. This is the favorite podcast I've ever been on. And I want to say it's like almost entirely because of the caviar, but it's not. You guys have been delightful. Almost as delightful as those prawn head guts and that last caviar bomb.
imagine the combination.
Yeah. Oh,
Sheesh.
we're going to have to put the prawn head guts on the caviar, and I'll give you the chips, as I promised.
Oh my God, I could just die. That would be like the last bite I want before I die. This was delightful. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, Adele.
But that wraps it up. That is another episode of the Durian Pod. My name is David.
And I'm Jasper.
And
I'm Heidi.
see you next time on the Durian Pod. Peace.
Hey guys, it's Jasper from the Durian Pod. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more food, more drinks, and great stories about literally going against the grain or maybe eating some edamame, be sure to follow, like, and subscribe, and you'll be able to find the Durian Pod anywhere you see podcasts. See you soon.